This is a quick overview video of the operation of your new electric pontoon boat. The batteries are all located in the rear compartment here behind this flap. So all 4 batteries are in here, as well as the charger. The charge cord is right here. In order to charge the batteries, you need to shut off the circuit breaker, which is done by pushing in this red button, and that releases that yellow arm. That is done so that the batteries cannot be, the voltage from the batteries cannot be put through to the motor while the charger is plugged in, which means when the charger is plugged in, the voltage is a lot higher than it should be under normal operating conditions. So what happens is, if you turn your key on when the charger is plugged in without this circuit breaker tripped, you could potentially damage the motor itself. So that's why we recommend doing that. Under normal conditions, you would unplug the charger from your shore power cord, and then turn on the breaker, and now you're all set to go. The battery charger has 3 rows of lights on it, and on this particular one from the boat you can see it a little better, but the top line is check connection. That would be a solid red light. For the most part, you never want to see that. That would mean that the potentially one of these fuses could be blown, and there's a fuse on both the positive and negative lead on each battery. So if one of those fuses is blown, you would get a check connection light, or in the case of one of the batteries being below about 8 volts, then the check connection light would be on without a blown fuse. But what that means is the battery voltage is lower than the threshold that the charger will charge. So if that happens, you would need to take a separate charger and charge that one battery individually to bring it above the bottom threshold, and then the charger should take back over and do its thing. So the next row down is going down to the bottom. When you first plug it in, it should go to charging. Is 1 to 10 amps, which is full output. So that it'll start there as a solid amber light, then it'll go to a flashing amber, then it will move up to the next row which says full charge, and then that light, when everything is fully charged and complete, that will be a flashing green light. So when you get to the boat and you look at it and you want to verify that everything is good, you want to see 4 flashing green lights. So each battery bank is labeled, and each battery itself is labeled accordingly. So if there ever was an issue, you can identify potentially which fuse is blown or which battery is not charging. So the system is a 48 volt system, and it needs to have at least 42 volts in it. So if one of these batteries gets down to 6 volts or 8 volts, that basically is the bottom threshold for the system working. So up inside the boat is your Encoder Control. There's a key here for it, actually 2 keys for it. When you turn the key on, you'll hear a click back at the motor, and then you'll see your gauge light up here. It's going to tell you that you're in the neutral position. You have 0% power being used. You have 99.9 hours of potential runtime, and you have essentially what we call a full tank of fuel. As you run the motor and turn it on, you will see that usage percentage, throttle percent, is going up, and your time remaining is going down. Those numbers are totally misleading when you're out of the water. So the average run time is 2 to 4 hours based on throttle position and you know, how much power you're actually drawing off the batteries. The fuel gauge itself tells you your level of charge. Try to get used to the boat and see how far you can go. If it gets real low, you want to be heading back to home. So, and then also with the key on, you have your tilt up and down, and then on the dash you have a tilt gauge, and that is turned on through this lower left accessory switch. So and on the top left you have your horn, navigation lights. In the navigation position you have the red and green on the front and the white light on the back of the boat. If you are moving in the water at night, you have to have those on in that position. If you were parked in the water at night watching fireworks or anything like that you're out away from the dock, you need to have that in the anchor position. Courtesy light is this light on the side of the dash there, and then again this lower accessory switch is what turns on your trim gauge. The other side here is the docking lights, which I believe this model has. Yes, it has docking lights on it. Stereo, that you need to turn that on and then turn on the actual stereo itself. That will light up. There is a
Get the latest
regular radio built into this, and then it's also a Bluetooth receiver, so you can set up your pairing to your phone for that. And then over here there's a charge outlet or an auxiliary if you have just a wired connection to go to your phone. And on the other side you have 2 more USB outlets, and then your RAM mount, which is what will actually hold your phone. You can adjust that and just clip in your phone like that, and then it's easy, and you can run a cord right to the USB outlet. There is what they call a dry storage tube on this side. You can put your keys or wallet or anything in there that you don't want to get wet or lose accidentally. The fish finder, there's a power button here, which you can just see the power symbol, but this one with the 3 lines on it, that's the actual button. It will turn on and say loading. It'll say transducer connected and normal. You don't have to touch anything else on it. It will then give you water or air temperature depending on where you are, and then your depth, which the depth will only read when you're in the water. And just remember that the actual depth is at least about 1 foot lower than the water level, just because the sensor is mounted about 1 foot below the bottom, the water line on the boat. So to turn that off, you just have to hold that, and it'll say shutting down, and it'll black out. Anything on your dash is independent from the motor itself, so turning the key on and off does not turn on the dash or off the dash or anything there. The other thing on this model, under this side seat, you do have a battery switch, which does turn off all the power to the dash. So if you want to get in the habit of doing that, so that you by chance you leave a light on or the radio on, if you turn that to that off position, kind of up and down there, that will shut off the boat but not the motor. And then this is a fuse for the boat only. The circuit breaker for the motor is in the back. This one also has a tilt steering wheel, so you push the button below the wheel and then that will rotate down. The table is underneath the seat here, which the base is in the owner's manual package. You can decide where you want that, and then there's some screws in there. You can mount that to the floor. There's 2 bumpers here for it, and then life jackets. You have the full safety package in the boat. So you have 4 life jackets, a paddle, a throw cushion, SOS flag, flares. There's an anchor and rope there. 2 dock lines, flares, and the SOS flag. This model also has the live well on it, which is that accessory switch. So when you turn that switch on, there's a pump on the back of the pontoon that will then pump water into here, and then it overflows through this tube. Or if you unscrew the tube and just lay it in here, then the water will just drain out. It's also, you can use it as a cooler if you want. Just put the tube back in, throw ice in here, and it makes a nice cooler. So